Welcome guys, sorry I'm a bit late today, I got a bit held up there, but still got plenty of time. I think I can go a bit late. How's everyone keeping? Let me pull up the chat here. Yes, Stois, let me pull this over here. Rushing to get ready for everyone. Tuck you in there. So I said I'd start something new today because we haven't started something new for a while. Jace all the way from Jamaica. That's cool. How you going, Jace? Wayne. Yeah, sorry, it was a bit late today. I was supposed to start just half an hour ago, and I got held up. So it was panic stations trying to get in to get onto the stream. No, the last stream actually. So yeah, 2 weeks ago. The last stream was cancelled because I was a bit sick. But we're all good now. Taking over. I'm all over the place today. Here we go. Now, so I wanted to start something new. Because I think we were working on the Hellboy a while ago. But I seen this, and I seen, for anyone who isn't aware of Randy Bishop, you should definitely go check out Randy Bishop. He's one of my favourite character artists, and a while ago he'd done this Wonder Woman design, and the last couple of times we worked on stuff, I was working on my own designs. And it can be nice sometimes to just work. Well, I mean, the majority of the time, a lot of sculptors will work off of other 2D artists' designs. I tend to do a bit of both. So the last couple of times, we've worked on my own designs, and this time I thought just to change it up, and it might be interesting as well, just to see how I'm interpreting another artist's designs for you guys, I guess. Hopefully that's interesting for you. And of course, as per usual, how we start, just a couple of spheres, and you can see already, you can probably see already, we're just starting on the head and get the base shapes in with the primitives, like I've shown you before, for anyone who's watched the stream before. So the last couple of times I used to always just play my own music to myself and let yous, but it seems people like having a bit of background music, so I got lo-fi station, it sounds alright. It's got some YouTube friendly music. Hey Yulia, all's well, hope you're doing well, hope you're doing good, thanks for joining as always. It's nice to see the regulars in. Yeah, so I decided I keep doing my own designs the last while, which I really enjoy doing, but it can be nice sometimes just to kind of, I find working off someone else's design is a little bit more relaxing, because for me, for sure, designing is a much more mentally exhausting thing than actual sculpting is. There's a lot there's a lot more problem solving, especially when you're sculpting just something for yourself, because you don't really have much in the way of limitations as much. Like if you're working on something for production and you're working off someone else's design, that's all well and good, but some parts of the design may not work for animation, depending on what your, you know, what the kind of limitations of that production are. So that requires a good bit of problem solving. And then designing characters for 3D for a production. That's now you're getting into exhausting territory. But well, I keep saying exhausting. That's the wrong word. It's great to have a challenge, but you know, sometimes every now and again you just want something nice and kind of straightforward. So I said I'd do something, and I thought Randy Bishop is very applicable because I've been following his stuff lately on Monomyth. So if you haven't heard of Monomyth, I think the Kickstarter, I hope it wasn't yesterday. I think today is the last day. But Monomyth is a short film that Randy Bishop wants to make, and he has a Kickstarter to fund it, and you know, to hire the other artists he'll need, and you know, all the costs of a production. And he's had his Kickstarter up a little bit, and it's either, I hope it's today, because it'd be great if anyone is interested in donating to the Kickstarter, if you want to be involved in it. Hopefully it's still there. I donated a bit, and I would love to see that thing come to life, because like I said, he's one of my favourite character artists. He has a great way of the way in which he stylizes things, just I find really, really appealing. So you can see I'm just getting base shapes here, and then I'll just use real mucky, it doesn't matter. Just Z-remesh real quick, just get the pieces in. So we'll sculpt it in like an A pose first, but we don't have to be too stringent in our A pose in terms of how you would be in a production environment. If you're doing an A pose for production, for example, you want to keep the feet dead straight, the hands have to be posed a certain way, either straight or slightly bent, the arms should be like from the shoulder should be at a 45-degree angle, so that's really important. There you go, 22 hours to go apparently. Nice. Yeah, I know. It's tall hour for the time frame. I know. I hope there's a miracle and manage to pull it off at the end. But I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works now on Kickstarter. I've never done one myself, but I would love to see what Randy Bishop would do with a short film. The idea sounds really cool. So it's called Monomyth, and it's essentially it's about it's like a couple of people who are trying to defy the gods. It's really interesting, and there's some artwork there. There's a bunch of artwork there already for it. It looks really cool. The characters are lovely. There's even a sculpt there of one of the characters, and it's really, really well done. So definitely check it out. He has some videos there talking about it. One of the videos where he's talking about why he wants the donation and all that. It's really funny. He seems to be. I don't know him personally, um, but he seems to be a really funny guy. So I said it's applicable that I do some Randy Bishop work, because in fact that was what I did the very first time I streamed with Pixologic, when I did the Masters series. That was the like demon, what's it called? There's a name for that creature. It's not like a demon. It's Phil from Hercules was one. There's a name for it, I can't think, but it's one of them. But it was a design from Randy Bishop, an old design from Randy Bishop that I found. That was a nice fit for it, because I wanted to do a demo, and it worked as something I could do as a character I knew I could get done in, I think it was 2 hours. It was just a bust. But you know, something like yeah, you have to kind of pick wisely to make sure you can get it done in the time frame, because obviously I didn't want to fall short and for it not to be a good episode. And it didn't have hair, it had horns, and horns take a lot less time than hair. Hair is usually very time consuming. So all I'm doing here is just taking the shapes I have already, and just, if you control with the transform tool, if you hold control while you move it, you'll duplicate it. And then I'm just splitting masked, which is under subtools. Just here you have group split and so on. So I'm just splitting masked, and I have that binded to Control Shift S. So as soon as I pull that down, I just hold Control Shift S, and then have a new one. I could also hit Control Shift D to duplicate and just move it down. But yeah, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So I'm just kind of, at this stage, I'm not thinking too much. Kind of just knocking in the shape of the general shape of the body. Trying to think a little bit about the proportions, but I have it all in separate shapes, so it doesn't really matter, because I can shift them all around really easily. That's kind of the point. So I'm just grabbing the primitive brush. Just pull out 2 spheres. So really this stage is just about getting, it's like again, like my process comes a lot from, initially from traditional sculpting, of, you know, when you're doing clay sculpting, the first thing you do is just get clay in there. You know, you have like straps, chunks of clay, and you just kind of push them all in there and start to get something there that you can manipulate, and then you can start working into it and worrying about the forms. But to begin with, you're more worrying about just you're more worrying about just getting the general pieces in there. You're kind of just a little bit thinking about, you know, your proportions. Like here, I'm just thinking a little bit about the rhythm of the body. You know, this forward a little bit. We'll get into that in a bit. I'm for today, because I'm obviously, we've got 2 hours, so I'm not going to be able to do all of this in 2 hours. so we won't worry too much about the body. So I might actually just leave blocking in, or well, I'm kind of, well, that's tricky actually, because I could show you just blocking in the body, and that could be like what we do. Or I can just get the blocking to this stage and just leave it as is and just walk into the head and actually, you know, sculpt a little bit into the head. But we're gonna try, let's get the pieces of the head in. So the important thing at this stage is not to get caught up in, you know, making these two shapes look just like this, her head here. Really the important thing is get it in the ballpark-ish, don't overthink it, and get the other pieces in, because all these things are going to be relative to each other, and that's what's really important. So you need to have the ears, the nose, the mouth, the eyes all in there to see how big and small, and how the curves and straights and all work corresponding to each other. If you don't have them all in, you can end up spending ages, you know, just on these two pieces, and then you put like the nose in and you realize these two are still wrong, so you have to, and you're going back between those three pieces, and it's just it'll all you're doing is delaying yourself. You'll probably get there eventually, but it'll just take way longer. So it's just not a good use of your time. So that's why you want to just get everything in as quickly as possible. So just draw local symmetry. So even this now, what I'm using here, I might use something off of this to make the ear, but chances are this geometry that we're looking at right now will not end up being part of the ear at all. It's essentially just to get an idea where that volume is. So I'm just thinking of the scale of things, thinking about the anatomy a bit, thinking about the proportions a bit. But again, that's kind of the point of keeping things separate, is because you always have the option to move things around really easily and quickly. Oh hey Luke, thanks for dropping in. You got Luke T there. For any of you guys who don't know him, he's a fantastic sculptor, and he's a recent addition to the Pixologic live streamers, and he's been doing some great work, so definitely go check him out. Thanks for dropping in, brother. Are you still planning to make a video about your process? Yes, I was actually only talking about this today. For any hardcore followers in the chat, you'll know from past streams on my own channel with Gavin O'Donnell, a good friend and painter. We were talking about doing tutorials and stuff like that today, and I was talking about, like, I know what tutorials I want to make. I have more than one. I'm working on a sculpt at the moment, just a personal sculpt. And that's kind of the problem, is because I'm like halfway through a sculpt and I come up with an idea for another sculpt, and I'm like, okay, I'll just get that sculpt done and then I'll do the tutorial, and then I come up with another one. I'm like, all right, we'll just do that one and then we have to do the tutorial. But essentially what I'd like to do is go over, do a tutorial first, because as well, of course, I haven't done a tutorial, so I don't want to do some big epic 24 hours worth of content. So the first tutorial I'd like to do is essentially a tutorial that goes through what I'm going to do today, and just goes through it in chapters and nice and step by step, that anyone who wants to can have that there as a reference to follow along on how to break up the head, and the body, and how to sculpt into them, how to manage the volumes, the process of like welding them together, and once they're welded together, duplicating it and reprojecting the detail onto the singular form, the singular mesh. So that's what I'd like to do for the first one, and then I think if that goes at all well, do something a bit fuller with a good bit more content, including maybe some stuff about like rendering and that kind of stuff. Anyway, getting bogged down here. So something I did for a good while that I really enjoyed and I found quite useful was, in the last studio I worked in, every week on I think it was like a Wednesday or something, we had an hour where we could kind of sculpt what we wanted, and it was supposed to be like a learning hour, and what it turned into was essentially like a sculpt off, where we had an hour, we all sculpted this, you only had 1 hour and you had to sculpt from the same 2D, so all of us would do the same concept and see how we interpreted it and so on. But because you've only got an hour, it really forced you to just concentrate on getting in the main volumes as quickly as possible, so that it looked the most like the 2D as it possibly could by the end of that hour. So you weren't going in with your Damien standard and getting noodly. You really had to focus on the big shapes, and that was very helpful in just honing that kind of concentration in where it should be. Now, that said, try doing that while you're streaming, and kind of talking to people and chatting all is a little bit more difficult than just sitting there with your headphones on your Todd. So there's just, by nature, because I'm also kind of concentrating on you guys, so obviously I'm not quite as fast. Could have done that better. Let's do that again. It's too far. There we go. So okay, I just want to show you another way of doing this. So obviously you can, I'm just making the eyebrows, and you can do it this way, and you could also go in and grab your slice go in, grab your slice curve, and you know. Oh, sorry. You can see what I'm doing there, and you can do. That kind of thing, and then work into it from there. Right, so you can work into it from there, but what I prefer to do often is, let's do that, is take the topology brush, I tend to use the topology brush on a very low size, because then these points are where the lines will connect, so more points just makes life a bit easier. You don't have to be too accurate right now. Actually, do that. And then once the brush size is at all the way down at 1, you just tap, and it's there. You can kind of see it. It's just behind the mesh. So I just, again, like I said before, Control Shift S, which I have binded to split masked, and now I have clean topology to work with. I don't like to crease it. Actually, before I do that, now that we have only a couple of points, so if I need to bring it out, I might even just leave it like this for a while, just so I have the option of moving the shapes around, probably a bit faster. Then, you know, adding in spark loops and stuff at this point, and taking them out later to change the shape around probably. And as well, if I'm moving this around and it's getting a bit messy and muddy, I can just project it, which I also have key binded, but it's project all, see, this one. So I have it Alt Control Shift and Q. So we'll just toss it out there for a minute. So we have something there. Eyebrows are fairly important. Sphere. That song was kind of annoying me. Alright, let me catch up in the chat here a little bit. Kazul from Mexico, how's it going, brother? That's a big Irish accent, yeah, it is. Cheers, bro. Take that as a compliment. Hold on, pull this closer. Um, hold on, let me look this up now. Oh. Yeah, of course. This, okay, so Ibrahim, you're asking about the orientation function in the picker menu for different brushes like clay buildup and so on. Throw that in the comments on YouTube or whatever, and I'll try to get back to you on that one, because I don't use this. I personally don't use this in my workflows, so I'm not the best person to answer this right now, but leave that in the comments so I can get back to you. Or if I can't, one of the guys will. Yeah, we'll look into that for you. And yeah, I've pulled the mic closer, so hopefully you can hear me better now. Peter, so should I? Okay, Peter is asking, so should I start the head with the right proportions or just make it rough at first? New to sculpting, so don't mind my dumb questions. No, it's not a dumb question. You should, when you're starting, you should be paying some attention to the proportions for sure. But like at the very, very beginning, really what you're doing is just throwing lumps of clay in to manipulate. So, but at the same time, if you're going to put a sphere in, get it more or less in the right position, in the right place, in the give or take the right shape. You know, like the cranium, give or take the right shape. Throw in the brows, because it's just going to help you visualize as you go. Is what I would recommend. But it doesn't have to be your main concern, because you're just getting the stuff in there that you can start to actually sculpt with. But this stage of just throwing stuff in should be very quick. You know what I mean? The idea is just to get the stuff in quick so you can start sculpting. Because at that point, it's less sculpting and more like panel beating. So just want to get something in here. That vaguely looks like there. Should probably be quite big. That's going to come down over the ear. And even this, like, I'll probably replace these with straps or something. I'm not sure yet how I want to go about doing the hair, but I'll probably replace them with straps. But I just want to see the volume. For the same reason as I said, just with everything else, to see how the shapes are relative to each other. Just get in important volumes, big volumes. Get in curves that look important, that are key to the shape. That kind of thing. It's almost, I mean, it's kind of, it sounds obvious in a way when you say it, but it's something that you really do have to practice and kind of drill into your head and get used to what shapes are important. Like it's not just, well, that one's obvious, and there's no formula to say, well, that one's right and that one and that one. It's really kind of the shapes that for you define the forms of like a head or whatever that define that head. Is what you're looking for. Glad to see you back. Thanks, Yulia. Always nice to see you in the chat. Blitzkrieg X. You and A Cubed really make Wednesdays worth waiting for. Love your stuff, man. Thanks very much. That means a lot. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad you enjoy it. He's not reading comments, I think. Yeah, sorry. I was getting a bit distracted. I'm trying to kind of get across the point of how to get through it quickly, so I wasn't looking at the chat for a minute. Oh, hey, Sean. Hope that Kickstarter gets done. Yeah, me too. I'm not sure whether it will now, but I really do hope so. I have for years loved Randy Bishop's work. My problem with Randy Bishop is when I want to sculpt anything he's done, someone's always done it already. That's my only problem with Randy Bishop, is because he's that good and so popular that everything he draws, someone sculpts, and I'm never quick enough to get to it. But nah, in fairness, I used to care about that more than I do now. I don't mind as much now. It is not. It's the only reason I don't like doing that is because it's very hard when you see someone else do a really good job of a sculpt. It's really hard to not be influenced from it, and I try not to be. I like to try and come at it from my own angle. It's very hard not to be influenced by someone else, by someone else's sculpt if they've done that already. Hi Alejandro. I'm working on Hellboy you made. I'm still on the head. Oh, very nice. You're following along with the Hellboy. That's great. Watching the other videos there. There's not one video of the sculpting of the body, so I'm thinking the body be a standalone. I'm trying to remember, did I not do? I'm trying to remember now the amount of stuff I do on streams, whether I did the body on stream. Maybe there's not. It will be the same process as the head in terms of working in separate pieces like this. So I would say if you're struggling with the body, you see, okay, so a really important thing that I think a lot of people who want to do stylized sculpts kind of avoid is the fact that you can't really get around needing to do real anatomy study, like doing real bodies. Not to say that that's what you're doing or anything, but if you're struggling with the anatomy in a body, for example, then that's something that you need to brush up on. If you're struggling with just the construction of it, it's like I said, from a technical point of view, this is how I'm doing it. It's the same way, just breaking up from rib cage, deltoids, pectoral muscles, putting in like the collarbone, the scapula, putting in the abdomen, and I'll usually run the legs straight into the abdomen and then sculpt in like the hip bones and so on, the glutes, each part, the lats, the traps. I'll have them all as just separate geos and just get them in there. And with Hellboy, obviously he's quite a muscular character, but with Wonder Woman she is too, but like if I was doing, say, a more kind of dainty, smaller character that isn't muscular, I would still put in those muscles to get those volumes where they should be, so I know that they're correct. and then when I dynamesh them all together, I can just smooth away what I need to. And that, I think, is really important, because even on muscular characters, because, well, what I try to avoid, and it depends on style too, because obviously if you have something really plainer, then you're not going to go in and smooth too much, because that's kind of the point. But if in the case of like something a little bit more, let's say, stylized in terms of volumes and curves and so on, but still kind of towards realistic, let's say comic type style, like Hellboy. Trying to think of another good example. But anyway, the point being, it's nice to not have every muscle super tense, and have areas where there might be some fat, and there are areas that aren't tense, so it's not like, you know, the whole abs aren't completely really defined. Maybe it's like they're stretched to the side, so this side doesn't have, you know, you're going in with your Damien standard, you're not going in as hard on the stretched side, because the skin is stretched across the muscles. It's not curving in, it's not getting pulled in, it's not contracting like it is on the bent side. So thinking about that stuff is important. And you can kind of, and look, I'm, you know, I studied anatomy for a good long time, and I still study it. Like, I still have books there for reference and all that type of stuff. I'm no like anatomy master or anything like that, but I definitely had to learn a lot about anatomy before I could start doing this and putting a body together, and so that is really important. So if you're getting into ZBrush and getting into sculpting, that's a really, really important step that you can't skip. It's a fundamental thing, learning your anatomy. It's very, very important. There's no skipping steps really when you're learning this stuff. But it's fine. I wouldn't be disheartened by that as well. If you're listening to this and you're learning, don't be disheartened by that either, because it's enjoyable. Like, as you learn more, you enjoy the progress, and you enjoy just the process of doing it. It's important to just appreciate your own work, and not, you know, don't get too caught up in like comparing your work to the best artists out there and all that kind of stuff. Just enjoy what you've done and enjoy your progress, because that's ultimately gonna keep you going, and that's more important, because if you keep going, your level is just always going to increase and increase. You know, you'll always get better at what you do most. It's just how it is. An unavoidable truth. And I would say, just full disclosure, as I say that, I like to make sure it's not taken too seriously, in terms of like, I wouldn't necessarily, well, what you want to do is up to you, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend just getting, you know, just constantly just trying to practice fundamentals. Some people may work well that way, and that's fine. I personally don't. I need to just, you know, practice some fundamentals, like do some studies or whatever, and then do something tangible, a character that I enjoy sculpting to, because I need that, you know, learn a little bit, then put it to practice and enjoy it, learn a little bit, enjoy it, learn a little bit, enjoy it, and that way you're getting a reward each time, so it keeps you going. And really, I can't state it enough, the most important thing is that you keep sculpting, because no matter how good or bad or indifferent you are, if you stop sculpting, you'll definitely not get better. So that's really the key, is to make sure you just keep sculpting. So don't get so caught up in the study part that you don't enjoy it anymore, because I've seen people do that, and I've ran into it a little bit myself in the past, where you kind of burn out because you're not really enjoying, you're not letting yourself enjoy it. Get too hell bent on being as good as the next person or whatever. So even now, as I'm saying this, like, I'm talking to you guys, so my head's not as concentrated on sculpting as it could be, but if I was sitting here on my own just sculpting, I would definitely have this nose in by now. It's a funny little nose. I'm trying to think. I know. Let's just duplicate that nose. Smash it in there. So now I'm more thinking of what forms I see in the sculpt itself, and what I see here is this line is very straight, and then it pops out into the cheek, and the eye sits in from that. I can actually see that this behind that eyelid. Hold on. Here. So this is very straight, and then the eye ends here, and I can see the plane of the side of our head, and on this side it will be just here, or aka the side of the head here, from the corner of the eye, and then it starts to wrap around. But it doesn't just stop. The head doesn't just start going back immediately after the corner of the eye, which is a mistake I see a lot of people making. It continues to go out and around. So what I'm trying to do now is get my character sculpt to go, I want to get into a 3/4 point of view, get the eyeball to the scale that I feel is right, and then have this distance. It doesn't have to be exact. I'm not really about being exact when it comes to sculpting characters, more about catching the feeling of it. But I want to see the side of that head on the other. So if I'm looking at it from here, you see, you can see the side of the head. So that's what I'm kind of looking for. If that makes sense. Where am I? Okay, yeah. Alejandro, love your workflow. Maybe you show the brushes that you use. It will be great help for ones who are starting on ZBrush. Yeah, a couple of people have asked me that before. It's a The only reason I don't is because my UI is very specific to hold as much canvas as humanly possible. But all I've used so far is the move brush, and this was with a clay build-up. That's all I've used so far. I don't use any fancy brushes. I use all the simple brushes. But if I use anything, I'll try to remember to tell you if I'm using any other brushes. I'm not gonna change my UI right now, but I'll consider. I keep asking them to add a smaller brush icon that I can fit, like down in the corner. Just point it at my screen like you're in the room with me. That you're down here in the corner or whatever. Right now, do you recommend any tutorial or courses to start character sculpting? So there's the 3D character workshop. Shane Olsen runs that. He's another one of the Pixologic streamers. I know Matt Torp has some. Pablo Muniz has some. There's a bunch. I mean, if you Google ZBrush tutorials, like, you will find all of this stuff. I feel like I'm missing really important ones there. My head's fried today. But yeah, I mean, all that's a good start. Raf Grizzetti has some tutorials depending on what kind of style you want to go for. Hey Tay, thanks for joining, buddy. What is the head she holding? Yeah, it's Medusa. It's got to be Medusa. Should I worry about proper topology if my sculpt is only for portfolio render rather than a game animation? So Darktist is asking that question. It's a good question. You should not do what I do and have topology. You should have topology in your portfolio. Depending on if you're going for games or animation, that's going to change the type of topology you're going to use. But you should have topology. Now, that said, I wouldn't say you have to worry about it on every sculpt, but have one or two examples at least. At least one example to show that you can do topology. You understand what production ready topology looks like and is, and you've done it. And then in your interview you'll have to kind of back that up or whatever, but you should have examples of that just to show you can do it. That is definitely better. I don't, and I should, but I don't. So there you go. I would say that's an exception to the rule, though. You should have topology in your portfolio, yes. But that said, like, I wouldn't go out of my way to make everything I ever make production ready either. Personally, I don't, because I do that stuff in work all day. And when I sculpt my own stuff, I just want to enjoy sculpting. Not to say I don't not enjoy the technical side of it, but I like to focus on this end of things. So yeah, I hope that answers that. Is that a retopo tool? Yeah, what I made the eyebrows with, yeah, it's a retopo tool. You can draw the edges out. It's just a brush. It's in your brushes. So B, T for topology. You can already see it here, and O, see BTO topology brush. And you can draw topology onto your meshes. So now I'm just figuring out what way I want this, because here I'm getting a 3/4. I have no front view. There's Ash. A cubed. Asho. Easy breezy with Paul Deasy. All day. Ash is another one of the Pixologic sculptors. She does some super crazy, awesome snake hook riddled creature sculpts and all sorts of stuff. So if you haven't checked her out, go check her out. She's also a very good streamer. It's an entertaining time. So I'd highly recommend go check out Asho, or A Cubed as they call her on the streets. How are you doing? I really should have started on this chat earlier because I am way behind. Paul, how's it going? I haven't seen you stream in a while. Yeah, sorry Alexis, I was sick 2 weeks ago, so I wasn't able to do the stream. No, I haven't used Dynamesh yet. What I'm using right now is the T-pose mesh function, which is under Z plugin. I've forgotten. Transpose master, there you go. T-pose mesh. And then I'll go back into T-pose back to subtools now in a second. I'm just getting the general shapes. This is very, very useful tool. That's why I have these. So it combines everything at the lowest subdivision level that you can make. You can, take a big brush and widen everything, or whatever you need to do. And then go back to your subtools. It's non-destructive. It's fantastic. It's one of my favorite tools. I use it all the time, hence why it's in my UI. She's getting a bit cheeky, you know what I mean? But you have to know how to draw the Sculpting ZBrush. Nope. It definitely helps. I drew for a long time before I ever got into ZBrush. I did a lot of drawing and painting, and that helped a lot. Drawing helped a lot with my sculpts, and painting helped a lot with rendering and stuff, just understanding a little bit about appealing light setups and so on. But as much as it helps, you can learn those. They're just principles that you can learn during drawing, but you can learn them through sculpting too. You just have to make sure with sculpting, because it's a bit more, especially you're using, because it's a bit slower by nature, it's easy to get a little bit stiff in your posing and your kind of the gestural end of your sculpture. It's because with a line you can be very free, and where with sculpting you can be very free. Actually, what I was mentioning earlier about Ashley, or A Cubed's stream, if you watch that, you can see she's very, I would say, very gestural in her sculpting in ZBrush. So it's not necessarily true that it's slower, but I'd say generally speaking it tends to be true that it's a slower process. So it just it's easier to be stiff. So you have to learn to get around that, because that's really important. So it's just paying attention to the rhythms of the curves in your sculpt and so on. I'm faffing with this one now after me saying about speed. What way do I want to make this crown? It's quite pointy out. Sean, this is right, so I need to work out the volumes of the mouth, and this is not how you go about it. So now this part will be tricky because I think our mouth is actually, to get that to work in 3D, you probably need to make quite a pointy mouth, you know, like a V-shaped mouth. Yeah, so we just need to figure out, is that the case? So it's a bit of trial and error. And this can be tricky. I always remember finding this difficult to begin with. Is like I'd get to a point and I'm trying to figure something out and it's not looking good, and because it's not looking good, I abandon that route and try it a different way. And had I just kept going down that and just brute forced through that ugly stage, I would have found the shape. But I kept faffing back and forth, you know, trying to make it look good immediately, and at a certain point getting so frustrated with it that it abandoned the sculpt. That was something that I did. I think everyone's kind of done that from time to time, but definitely something that I struggled with when I was starting sculpting. Do you know what, actually, at this point, let's give you a couple of, that'll do you. It's not beneficial for me anymore, really, to have the top and bottom of the head separate, so I'm just gonna join them together. Where is it? Let's just show you up the top. I think that's it there. No. There we go. And now we're going to use dye mesh. And then we turn it back off. And then we can probably just Z-mesh as it is. It's not exactly a complex shape. Love your work, Paul. You inspire me every day, bro. Hopefully I get to meet you one day. Back at you, Jeffrey. Hopefully we can get some the likes of Lightbox and stuff going back again, and of course ZBrush Summit, the big one, which I've yet to be able to go to, which is an absolute crime, I know, but fingers crossed for next year, and maybe I can meet some of yous, because that would be awesome. Because I'm not a bot, you're beautiful. That's definitely a bot. Is there any good tutorials that teach you full workflow with ZBrush? I can't seem to find. There's a full workflow. I don't know if there's a full tutorial on a workflow, a particular workflow. I remember years ago one that I had seen was from Johnny Rampant, who's a really good sculptor. He was actually on one of these streams at one stage, one of the Hellboy streams. He joined in, which was really cool. Yeah, I mean, they're there if you find them. To be honest, like, I watched a lot of YouTube and I kind of just learned myself over time, and you know, I didn't get, my workflow is not from any tutorial or anything like that. It's just trial and error. So but it's something that I want to make, because I don't see a lot of it. There seems to be a bit of a gap there. I just haven't got around to it quite yet. So I want to do this. So you see now I'm just using a big Damien standard here, that's all. I'm actually using it to create forms. A lot of people use Damien standard just to create like valleys and stuff, but a big Damien standard is very useful just for creating nice big forms with an edge. And I want this, the way this bridge, this edge comes up here to just continue off into the brow. And what's really gonna, you kind of want to be using your imagination through it, because you're thinking ahead of the fact that like you're gonna break the symmetry on the face and tilt the head and all that stuff, and that's like when once and you need to focus on not jumping too early to that point, because once your sculpt just looks nice in that A pose, and then you start then you start moving things around and breaking the symmetry, it really comes to life then, and you kind of, that for me is always the point where I get kind of reinvigorated and really excited about the sculpt. You know, I'm always excited about the sculpt starting, and when I get into the face a bit, and that's always nice. But then, you know, after a while you're kind of just getting through the different parts, and then at a certain stage you the character just starts to really come together, and then that's always really cool. Like starting to feel like, yeah, this is starting to look good, it's starting to look like something. It's a cool place to be at with your sculpt. Right, we're going to use the topology brush again real quick, like. Let's have a look here. Forkin's asking, what's the difference between ZBrush 2020 and 2022? Well, yeah, 2021. There's the best thing you could do, because I can't off the top of my head list, because there's loads of different functions, different brushes added, like these mesh extrude brushes, and there's a rake of stuff added in. But you can find that really easily in a YouTube video. Get a cup of tea or whatever your poison is, and watch a YouTube video. Michael Pavlovich has a video. There's a ton of them. And watch a video, and it'll show you each one and how they work. That's the best thing to do, because we don't have long enough here for me to go into all of it, and I don't want to forget that neither. And yeah, Christ Wonder Girl, yeah. So to sculpt realistic characters, or do I have to practice more? Can I just start to sculpt realistic characters? But actually, if you like realistic characters, like even if you wanted to do stylized characters, I would still recommend that you do, you know, realistic anatomy and stuff, and learn that first. You know, it's like life drawing, or well, life sculpting. So yeah, I'd recommend it. But yeah, you can just start, you know, get reference and start sculpting. Try to pay attention to, you know, don't try not to get into a habit of just copying, but also try to really get it into your head what's happening as you're doing the anatomy, like where things connect, how they connect, the proportions of things. Because I know myself just from doing life drawing for a number of years, that's something that I had to learn, was to stop just copying what I see, which is important too, to be able to just observe well, but you know, at a certain point you want to kind of start to really take in, so that you can you know, you could do it again by memory, so that eventually it starts to become more kind of intuitive, I suppose. I need to, okay, eyelashes. It's starting to get dark in the evenings a bit again. That's a bit of a pity. Always like in the summer here, it stays bright really late. Like it stays bright until like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And here it's now, well, yeah, it's 9:45. So here it's still kind of bright. Like it's not dark out really yet. But it's nice for the streams. Have that daylight coming in the window. Is ZBrush worth it? I mean, you're on the Pixologic channel. I mean, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't worth it. Goes without saying a little bit. Can I just? Yeah, sorry, you do. Yeah. Yeah. Ah, look, just having a little chat. Read a book, look at people, study. That's gorge. Now I'm just reading a little chat. Alright, okay, we're finally getting to the bottom of this. Asho. Doing good, you've been crushing it with the good advice. I can only dream of being as well spoken. Would you, don't, I can't tell if you're being, that's too complimentary in a way. I feel like, is there a hint of sarcasm? Yeah, I'm not well spoken. I'm gonna pretend. I'm gonna just assume that you meant every word of it, and walk away with that nice compliment. Asho. I do try. I probably fail at least 50% of the time, but you know, God loves a trier, as they say. Do I have to buy ZBrush to go to school? And my school does not give an education license for ZBrush. Oh, that's a shame. You should definitely ask. Although it depends on what level of school you're talking about. But you should definitely ask. And you don't. There's a free version called ZBrush Core Mini that you can use, and you can practice in that. It doesn't have as much features as the full version. The full version you do have to pay for, but the nice thing is, once you pay for it, it's not like a lot of other softwares where you have a perpetual license that you have to pay for on a yearly basis or whatever. Once you pay for ZBrush, you own it. You get every update forever, and you're away with it. So it's the only software I own that does that, and I absolutely love that about ZBrush. You don't have to worry about paying another couple of $100 or more every year. Did you go to college to learn or learn online? Both. I studied classical and computer animation in college. This is wrong. And so I learned a little bit of like modeling and rigging, and I learned a little bit of 2D animation and layout design. No character design, funnily enough. Nothing specific anyway. We had a layout design class, but no character design class, which was unfortunate. But when I finished college, I still had a lot to learn, and I knew I had a lot to learn. Because it was, you know, for me it was important to important, but also a struggle to realize where I was in terms of level, in terms of how close I was to being valid for employment. That was tricky. I never really figured that out. Just one day I got a job. Eventually I just got a job. Once I just kept working and working until, as I always said, it was throw enough muck at a wall until something sticks. And that was essentially so after college, because I felt like I was trying to aim at professional level, or it's what I understood as professional level, and of course I was looking at super talented artists that had been in the industry years and stuff, and was trying to hold myself to that, which I don't think was a bad thing. Some people be like, that's putting too much pressure on yourself, and kind of, I don't know, yeah and no, because I think a certain amount of pressure is a good thing, to be honest. A lot of people might disagree with me on that. I tend to feel like a certain amount of pressure is a good thing. Too much of anything is bad, and pressure is no exception. But for me, that was an important part of getting me to where I am, I think. And I honestly, after college, like, I was right. I wasn't at that level yet. I wasn't sculpting either at that point. I didn't know ZBrush really at all when I finished college. You're talking now, what, 11 years ago I finished college. Getting on. And I was drawing and painting, as I said before. Trying to compare myself to the likes of Randy Bishop and Lowish and Max Grech, and then I got into sculpting. It's actually, when I got into sculpting, it was pretty quick after that. I was doing online stuff, but a lot of tutorials and all that kind of stuff at home. And yeah, honestly, I did that quite a lot for a good while. Like, there was a good year to 2 years, probably 2 years, where I was working on my own stuff for on average probably 6 hours a day, maybe more, maybe a little bit more. And but not sitting there forcing myself and hating it, but I was enjoying it, and because I was always learning, and that was something that this year I kind of tried to tune back into, because I find I enjoy all of this stuff a lot more when I'm learning new things. And so yeah, I did both. Is the long answer. I have half a hard drive full of abandoned scopes. I feel it at my car. Yeah. I always call that the graveyard. I have exactly that. A ton of just stuff that looks like this. I'm pretty sure a large amount of it is still on my cloud drive from years ago. But yeah, it's part of the process. You know what I mean? Everyone's got them. There's some even that I think I should go back and finish that. I never go back, but I think about it sometimes. That's as much as they ever get. Right, god damn it! I keep forgetting to put in these. Keep going to put in these eyelashes. Yeah, because I wanted to move the head. Okay, because I don't want this huge. The eye. Okay, maybe actually the eye is too small. That's probably the problem. So this is something important to remember. Because your eyeball in your head is kind of big. And what you shouldn't have, and again, it's something that I see pretty often, I see pretty often, is so the eyeball is like bug-like, that before the curvature of the eyeball reaches the head, reaches the corner of the eye, like that point, it's actually curving all the way around to the point that now it's coming out of the head at essentially like 90 degrees, like straight out and then curving. You don't want that. It should go in at like, it should meet the eyeball, the corner of the head. How do I describe this properly? Like, okay, here, this angle of where this angle along here compared to this angle should not come straight out. It should be at an angle. And oftentimes so for example, what you don't want, if you make the eyeball too small, it's like, that's where the eyeball goes now. You get too harsh an angle. Actually, that's actually not bad. Hold on. How big is this eyeball? There we go. It's making a lawyer out of me. Yeah, here we go. So you see this curvature. So really, the way to avoid that is you need the eyes to be big. Even in production, I do this, and the trick is the problem that comes from it, which is completely solvable, is you have a mouth bag inside the character's head, obviously, and the eyes are generally so big that they protrude through the mouth bag. But there's a way that rigger can do that by just putting a lattice on the eyes that's hidden, and you're away with it then. So you don't have to worry about when the character opens its mouth seeing the bottom of two eyeballs. It's a very simple fix. And once you have those, and be careful not to have your eyes too the face too shallow, the eyes, you don't want the face to be too flat. Give some nice depth to the eyes. Where was I? I did that, and do that with painting also. Nice. Yeah, all these things, the principles carry across, you know what I mean? Anatomy is anatomy, regardless of whether you're sculpting or drawing. Really enjoy your cadence, Paul. Thank you very much. So full of knowledge. Talks a mile a minute. Well, that's often the case with someone who's got that much knowledge. He's great though. I don't. It's very rare, at least, that you see anyone that knows, like, he knows everything in ZBrush, like every little button he knows. It's insane. Because there's obviously quite a lot there, and how everything combines and mad tricks with different tools. It's insane. He's a master. He's a ZBrush master. I know it. Well, you see, sometimes and I've talked about this before with friends of mine about how other artists. I mentioned Gav O'Donnell earlier and Rory Bjorkman, and I was saying any like hardcore followers will have seen we used to do streams together, and have these big philosophical chats. And one thing that we had talked about before is sometimes you might have someone say, how do I start sculpting? It's a really broad question, and it's nearly impossible to answer, because well, it's too broad to answer. I mean, there's no one way to start sculpting or start anything. So, um, similarly, so you don't know where to start with them. If they learned a little bit and then came back to you with some questions, something a little bit more specific, then you can help. It's similar with tutorials. Different tutorials are made for different people. Um, like the tutorial I want to make first would not be for someone who's never used ZBrush, because you can't, if you try to make a tutorial that pleases absolutely everybody, then you end up pleasing nobody, because the people who know how to use the software get bored because the person is going through like how to rotate the canvas and stuff, and then the people who are just now learning, if you're trying to teach them everything including the really difficult stuff, get overwhelmed with the information. So like I would say, you have to be at a certain point to be ready for certain tutorials. Does that make sense? This is why, like certain courses and stuff, you have to apply and put your portfolio in, because you have to be at a certain level to kind of learn what that course is teaching. I hope that makes sense. If I draw my imagination and sculpt it, would it be a good thing in my portfolio? If it's good, anything's good. I mean, yeah, it is. If it's a good sculpt, if it's a good design, yes. If it's not so much, because obviously if it's not appealing, then it's not as good. So it's something I always did. I always did my own designs as well as doing other people's. I think if you want to do that, mix it up. So at least if you're not quite at the I mean, chances are, if you're drawing from your own, if you want to sculpt and you're learning and you want to sculpt from your own imagination, draw and sculpt it from your own imagination, chances are you're not going to be as good a character designer as Randy Bishop. Not many people are. So if you do a Randy Bishop, then your sculpt is going to benefit from the fact that you're working off a very, very good design. And I think I just seen Rory that I was just talking about is in the chat. I'll come to that now. Where was I? Yeah, so having a combination, because it is, if you want to do that, then do it. You, like I said, you'll always get better at what you do. So like I like to do that. I was not always and because I like to do it and I continue to do it, I've gotten better at it over time. So my designs and so on have gotten better over time. And some of my most popular sculpts now are my own designs too, where that wasn't the case a couple of years ago. So that's what I'd say. Do a combination, because obviously if you're applying for a job, it's all from your imagination and you haven't developed the skills of design quite yet, then your portfolio is going to suffer from it. It's going to make it harder for you to get a job. Where if you have both at least, then you're practicing, you're getting some reception for your own designs and some feedback maybe, and at the same time you can say in an interview, oh, these are my own designs, but this is designs from other people's 2D, or these are sculpts from other people's 2D, and that way the person looking at the portfolio can understand. And what I'd also do is try to separate those two things in your portfolio. If it's ArtStation, have like two different categories can be good, especially to begin with, so that you can have your great sculpts from great designs on a single page and they can see that, and then they can flick to the other one and see your own designs from there. That's what I'd say. Either way, you're going to be practicing sculpting, so you're going to get better at that regardless. But certainly working from other people's designs can, and because when you're sculpting them, you're studying them, right? So you can actually learn. If you pay attention, you can learn about design from that process. I feel like at the beginning I was so hell bent on getting through the sculpt that I wasn't paying any attention to the chat, and now trying to catch up with the chat, I haven't paid any attention to the sculpt. But I hope I'm not. I hope what I am saying is helpful to you guys. Because, you know, I can sculpt anytime, but I always enjoy an old chin wag. Where was I? Zerlin, thank you very much, Zerlin. Is there try to charge people who already own the phone? If they ever do try to charge people who already own the phone, which I hope they don't, I don't understand only about. But this would be if there was a big superb update. Yes, yeah, it's true. Rory, I have a question. Here we go. Can you discuss the origin of time and the meaning of existence? No. No, I'm only messing, I can't. No, I'm only messing, I can't. I need someone to bounce off for that kind of thing, you know what I mean? We should do an old stream again, and that's our topic. Let's just get stuck into the big questions. Because if there's no better buckles. Yeah, me and Rory like to get into some deep philosophical conversations. I love it. I love a good debate. A good friendly debate. There's nothing like it. And a pint of Guinness. Huh? And a fireplace. Oh, cheers, Luke. Enjoy. Catch you later, brother. Thanks for joining, man. I can meet more like-minded sculptors. How can I meet more like-minded sculptors and form more connections with people? That's an interesting question. So, obviously online, stuff like this. Join, there's artists' discords. Get on them. I have my own, in fact, that I've been admittedly neglecting. Where did I put that? Here we go. So I'll drop my link tree into the chat there, and you can jump on that, and there's a link there to a Discord. There's a bunch of people in there chatting away and sharing their work and all that good stuff. So that's one of many ways, you know, groups on Facebook. But really, for me, the biggest one is like if you can get to events, which obviously is difficult at the moment, but if you can get to events, the likes of ZBrush Summit, that's by far the best way. That's an exceptionally good way. But I mean, in the meantime, you know, just chatting to people online, getting involved in conversations is a really good way to do that. Maybe that's for another stream, Puddles. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm up for it if you are. Actually, anyone in the chat, if you're up for listening to me and Rory Bjorkman, who, by the way, if you don't know his work, go. Hold on, I'm gonna get this for you. Rory's an old rock star. if you want to hear me and Rory Bjorkman discuss life and its meaning, say so in the chat and we'll get it sorted. There's Rory's art station. Go check out him if you haven't already. A lot of you probably do already know his work, but check him out if you haven't. He's a very good friend of mine and a top shelf artist. Defo do the stream, man. They're a lot of fun. There you go. Sean's in. Yulia's in. Let's do this conspirations stream. Close. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, we've got a couple of votes already in there, right? We're away with it. Why is there a ZBrush and not a YBrush? Now, see, these are the big questions that we need to ask. Will be awesome. There you go. So we should definitely do that. People need to know, Rory. People need to know what we have to say. Poddles and roddles strike again. You'd swear I was here to sculpt. See here. What we can do, duplicate this, delete the subdivisions because the topology brush doesn't like subdivisions. I'll do that. I'll do that. Oops. We had double now. See this funny stuff happening here? Well, we can get rid of that though. Uncrease. See how that. Yeah, got it. Let's give that one of those. See, there's only a few points, so it's really easy to keep, like as in there's only a few verts here, so it's really easy to keep this shape clean. Or if this has a ton of verts, it gets very awkward to keep it clean. Give me that dummy head again. Was it this one? Yeah. Call it a dummy head because I've deleted the subdivisions and I'm just using this as a surface to draw on. So so this was an important one because I definitely need more space between the eyebrow and this. Did that go up there? It did. Oh, I gave that one thickness. Whoops. Don't want thickness just yet. There's no point. Get rid of that. Oh, memory. Oh, we're kind of out of time now anyway. That's a new one. Locked main in list out object. Didn't like that. It's probably actually a good place to leave it right now. Because I'm going to have to go fix that. And at some stage, Ash is going to have to go on. He's going to have to take the stage. I'm going to go... I have to Google that one to fix that one. Where do we leave the chat? Go for it. There you go. Roddles, we've more than enough people there telling us to do it. So, I mean, we owe it to them. Is art school worth it? Depends on the art school. But sometimes not so much. Either way, you got to put in your own work too. It's kind of give and take. Loving the chatty live strings. Cheers, Julia. Do you give away your custom UI for free, Paul? It's actually on the Discord that is in the link tree that I linked earlier in the chat. I can show it again if you need it. All my social media is actually on this. So if you want to and you don't already, you can follow me or whatever on any of them. And they're all in that link. It's just a nice clean page with all of them listed. So you can, whatever you want, it's there. Oh, where do I work? I work in a studio called Giant Animation here in Ireland, which is where I'm from. Very, very nice studio. Rory's. If there was one thing you wish you knew starting out, what would it be? That's difficult. That's a head scratcher. What would it be? Maybe something to do with, I feel like it'd be something to do with learning or something. Not like, it wouldn't be like a specific tool or anything. Jesus, that's a tough one. Rory throwing in this fucking spanner, huh? What tool is this again? I think you're talking about the topology brush, which is in the brushes. Just it's B, T, and O. If you hit those keys, you'll get it. But it's in the brushes. If you hit B, it'll pull up your brushes and you can see all of them, and you'll find them in there, no problem. I'm looking to buy ZBrush for professional work. Is there any cheap discounted resources to obtain the program? ZBrush tends to go on sale around like the ZBrush Summit and stuff. Other than that, I'm not so sure. And is there any other software I should use alongside with ZBrush? I'd have to know what you wanted to do. Depends on what you want to do. But of course, like there's other programs that do other things too. So just think what do you want to do, and then just Google what you want to Google what software will do that for you. If there's other stuff that you want to do outside of ZBrush, and you'll find it. Same way if you Googled I want to sculpt, what program do I use for sculpting, you're gonna get ZBrush. So it'll tell you the most popular ones. Next stream, next stream will have come up. Next stream I'll still be sitting here scratching my head thinking, what would I have learned? What would I have wanted to learn? I think, do you know what I would have reached out to people more, because I spent too much time trying to learn on my own, and not getting help, and I would have probably fast tracked a lot of stuff if I had have asked for help. Yeah, so maybe that's all I can think of right now. So maybe that's an alright answer. Maybe, is it? I don't know. Go on. What's yours, Roddles? What would be the first thing you would have learned? That's actually, we should do that next stream. Next stream I should do that, like have a question like that, and just give it to everybody to answer in the chat. So hopefully next stream I'll try think of something, or maybe just ask that and see what everyone says. That'd be interesting. See what kind of answers we get. I think I'm currently looking into Substance 3D Painter, which seems to be useful. Yeah, Substance is great. Which seems to be useful. My 9 to 5 I use Blender. What I want to progress in the industry. Any other modeling software recommended? Modeling software, I don't know. I use Maya. I use ZBrush like pretty much 90% of the time as a character modeler. So the only other one I use is Maya. I don't use Blender. Also curious what render engines you use. I use Arnold. I've experimented with a few, but Arnold's definitely my favorite. I love Arnold. I would have started younger. I wish I would have started younger if I started when I was 16. They say youth is wasted on the young, but sure, look, hindsight's 20/20, as they say. I wish I started using ZBrush younger, possibly. But I was always very against doing technical 3D things. And when I came to ZBrush, it was in a pretty good place. So I'm glad. And ZBrush was the first 3D software I ever used. Well, it wasn't the first, but it was the first one I enjoyed. It was what got me into 3D. If I'd never used ZBrush, I would have never gotten into 3D. I'd probably still be drawn. I'd still be drawn 6 hours a day trying to get a job. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. Why do you choose Arnold over the others? Because I feel the renders look great. It's not overly complicated to get a really nice render. I find it relative. I know it's brute force, therefore slower, but I don't actually find it too slow. I think it's quite quick for what I needed to do. And subsurface, I do characters. Subsurface is important, and not many things does subsurface better than Arnold. So, and I'm used to sub D modeling as opposed to real time renders. So yeah, Arnold just fits me best. Best resource to learn ZBrush. So I mentioned earlier 3D character workshop with Shane Olsen. He does He has, like, you can subscribe to that, and you get all the content in there. And then of course Pixologic's YouTube channel. I mean, you're right at the source. Here you've got, like, you're getting it right from the horse's mouth, as they say. Like, for me, I learned a lot through YouTube, but there's also a lot of great tutorials, like Michael Pavlovich, Pablo Muniz, like I said, Shane Olsen, Matt Thorup, Raf Grizzetti. There's loads and loads. And that's just to name a few. There's tons of stuff out there on how to learn ZBrush. So, and really, this is what I'd say for learning ZBrush. Watch a beginner's tutorial on YouTube. Just figure out how to navigate and move stuff around, how to use the most basic brushes, the move brush, the clay build up, Damien standard, pinch, how to mask things and how to smooth things, and just start sculpting something simple. Find like a simple character with, don't go complex in the hair, if any hair, and just sculpt something you enjoy, with just that amount of knowledge, and then learn maybe what does Z-Remesh do, or what any of these streams. Hopefully I'll be able to do a tutorial in the near future on my workflow, but and just enjoy it. Just enjoy doing that. Your a workflow will come to you. Things will start to click in, and you make more and more sense as you go. And just enjoy that. It's like starting a series. You know what I mean? Just enjoy learning it, because when you're learning, you enjoy it so much more. When you've learned everything, it'll get boring. And the beauty of art is, I was actually just talking to Rory about this the other day. The beauty of art is you never learn everything. There's always another angle to take. There's always another avenue to explore, another way to do something. But at this stage, you've got like this software, this super cool software ahead of you that can sculpt and do characters and all sorts, and has loads of these really interesting tools like dynamic cloth simulation. You've got like fiber mesh and doing like grooms, and that's on top of the fact that it's essentially a clay sculpting simulator. Like, it's, do you know what I mean? So just enjoy learning it, enjoy building up your own process, enjoy making good, bad, indifferent sculpts. Do it all and just enjoy it. That's the best way to do it. That's how I did it. And when I did it, now granted I was drawn for a long time before, so I had the fundamentals. I had a decent understanding of fundamentals like anatomy. But once I started using ZBrush, from the moment, because the first day I ever used it, I took a screenshot to show a friend of mine that was the one who told me to try ZBrush, and I sent it to him, and I found that later. And it was 7 months between the day I sent him that screenshot and the day I got my first job as a character sculptor. So, like, you can really, you can pick it up pretty fast. This isn't like 5 years before you're any good at ZBrush. Like, you can pick it up if you work at it and just enjoy it. And if you enjoy it, you'll work at it because you'll want to do it. It'll be the same way you want to play a game when you get home or watch TV. You'll just enjoy it. So it's the best way to think about it, I think. And by the way, the same thing with practicing anatomy. Try to find where you enjoy it. Find how you the form, like the beauty in the form. Like life drawing kind of taught me that. And you almost get excited when you see like a nice little angle in a curve and all that kind of stuff. But think about when you're doing anatomy, when you're studying it, think about what way things are connecting and the ratio between them, the proportions between them. And yeah, just get some reference and sculpt from the reference. And some anatomy books, like I have the 3D Total one there. I need to turn on a light or something. It's very dark. Is that too bright? Is that even? No, that's dead. Hold on. This one. That's a bit better. Here we are. This guy here. Anatomy for Sculptors by Uldis Zarins and Sandis Kondrats. Anatomy for Sculptors. It's a great book, great reference. I use it all the time. It's categorizes each part of the body, so stuff like that, and sculpt them and just get to grips with it, with what's where and where it connects, where it comes from and where it connects to, all that stuff. And the top 3 character for books, I don't know, that's the one that I use constantly. There's no other book that I use all the time. So I would say there's other good anatomy books. I had one in work that's so long ago that I've been in work that I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, you can't go wrong with this one. This is my favorite book for sculpting. So yeah, understanding your workflow sounds awesome. Yeah, exactly. No problem at all. Zell Tribal. No problem, buddy. So I'm gonna have to go fix my. It died. Classic. But anyway, I hope that was helpful. I hope I didn't yap your ears off too much. I certainly enjoyed it. I hope you did too. So yeah, the usual, guys. If you enjoyed it, it's good. Throw a like on the video. Let us know if you enjoyed it. If not, fair enough. Let us know in the comments if there's anything you'd like to add or take away, or any suggestions you have at all. And of course, if you did enjoy it, then and you're not subscribed, you know what to do. And you can catch these streams then more often, and not just mine, but the likes of Luke that was on earlier, fantastic sculptor. Ash then came on, she's another fantastic sculptor. Shane Olsen that does the 3D workshop, he's another sculptor on there. And then there's a ton of other sculptors that are all, top notch. It's a pleasure to be among them. So I hope you's had a good stream, guys, and I'll catch you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks Wednesday.